It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome an entrepreneur who has made an impact on the sports world. This gentleman has spent more than half of his adult life bringing traveling sports teams to Asia and China. He's also the founder of the Texas-based To God Be the Glory Sports, which works with young people through various sports programs across the globe. And this year, they will honor the late George Floyd with various programs in their community for ambitious athletes. It's Cyril White. He joins this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN right now with your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. We've made it through almost another week. I know everyone is super excited today. Football is back. I know we've been counting down for the NFL. We had no NFL preseason, but tonight we are in for a great game. But before the game, I had to bring in the big guns. I had to bring in a very special guest who can help me talk the latest and greatest in sports and also talk about social justice, social injustice, and many more things in sports. So again, welcome to an exciting new edition of Listen In with KNN, presented by Fox Sports Radio, 1340 AM and 96.9 FM. I'm, of course, your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And joining me today is none other than Cyril White. It's his first time on this show. He is the founder of To God Be the Glory Sports, and after that name, you know it's going to be a great show. Very excited to speak with him. He's doing a lot of amazing things internationally, globally with sports. And so without further ado, I would like you to help me welcome him onto the show. Cyril, how are you today?
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. First off, I'd like to do a wellness check with my guests. How are you feeling? How are you doing? How's everything?
Oh, thank you for asking. Everything's been fine. You know, I'm down in Houston, Texas right now.
Yeah, H-Town.
Houston was a big hotbed for COVID. Thankfully, everyone in my family's been safe and healthy.
Very good. We love to hear that. I know life has been so different for so many of us. I know, especially for you coming from Houston and then before you were overseas, I'm sure the adjustment has been crazy, but it's so glad to hear that all of your family has been safe. And let's get into it. I mean, you are just an incredible individual. I mean, over 20 years, you work for the Chinese Basketball Association, helping to host games and tours from around the world. You're a sports professional. You help bring sports and sports travel teams to Asia, especially China. So just talk about your background. How did you even get into this? What's kind of been your inspiration and motivations?
Well, you know, I grew up loving basketball. You know, first thing, Kelsey, is I love basketball. And, you know, I played varsity basketball in high school and, you know, was lucky enough to get a college scholarship.
Yes.
And, you know, played in college. And, you know, once I started to play overseas, once I got to China, that was a really big eye-opener to how much people really love basketball in that country. And you know, at the time, I was a basketball player, And I saw the vision. I saw where basketball was going to grow in that country and how I could leverage those relationships. So, my background in it was really just growing up with the love of the sport of basketball, and one thing just led to another.
I love that. Just life happens, right? Your story is always being written. And for you, an African-American male coming from Houston all the way to China, was that transition pretty easy for you? What was it like?
Absolutely not easy. Absolutely not easy.
Very different, right?
Very different. It's a whole different world. In the South, I joke with people about this all the time. My first trip to China, I took all of my clothes to the cleaners, and I got, my pants all ironed and starched like we do in the South. And once I got China, I was like, wait a minute, man, this is much different. Like, I could have really bought the same clothes and worn the same thing every day.
Yeah. But, you don't have to be prim and proper.
Right. That was like one of the first things I learned, just how different the culture was in terms of fashion and dress. But as time went on, I discovered all the many more differences. But so funny now that I'm just so accustomed to China, it's like my second home.
I absolutely love that. I love just the international stories, and basketball there, it's huge. I mean, we think about how big the NBA is, but they love basketball over there, the Chinese Basketball Association. Of course, we know some big names playing over there, Jeremy Lin, Lance Stevenson, Ty Lawson. I mean, the list goes on, Brandon Bass, so many American players that we know very well playing overseas and making good money, might I say, Cyril, right?
That's right. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved there when I was there. I earned more in China than I did in any other place, and I'd only played in Panama and Mexico. Those aren't that pay a lot of money. When I got to China, I was like, wow. And then it's time, especially after the NBA lockout in 2011, when we brought over Martin and Wilson Chandler and J.R. Smith and Aaron Brooks and those type of guys at that time, it's just the money's just continued to go up, up, and up. And so it attracts the best guys that are not in the NBA for sure.
Yeah, and you talked about attracting the best guys. You just had some pretty big names. So playing over there, though, would you say it's like the same atmosphere? Because, of course, most of us know what it's like to go to an NBA game, have those fans rooting for you. But when you play over there, would you say it's the same excitement?
Well, it's interesting because some players that I've helped adapt when they get there, you definitely don't smell that popcorn like you smell. Like, that's a big part of it. Like, when you're warming up in any stadium, you can smell that popcorn, and you definitely can't smell the popcorn in China. They're not doing that. But they're definitely trying to make the game as much like the NBA as they can with their use of music, the way the DJs kind of set the tone with their use of music, the way they use mascots, throwing the T-shirts into this. They try to mimic things, but they definitely got a long way to go.
It's just not the same like a good old NBA basketball game. I love absolutely seeing that. Oh, we already got a fan question for you. I love this one. How good of a player is Cyril on NBA 2K? Are you pretty good?
I tell you what, man, I'm the worst player. I've been much into video games since old school Nintendo when we had Double Dribble and Duck Hunt. That I'm really not that much into video games.
But it mattered. You were better on the court, which is where it mattered best. And that's why you got that big paycheck when you were playing overseas in China. And as I understand it, Cyril, you were over in China, right, when this whole pandemic started, which is mind-blowing to me because I remember when we, I think, as most Americans had first heard about it, I don't think many people were too scared, right? We're like, it's overseas. We think they're going to get it under control. Many did not think COVID-19 would be what it is today. So talk about your experience over there when the pandemic first hit, and like, what was your experience like trying to adjust to that, keeping yourself safe, and then of course kind of having a plan to get back here home to the USA?
It really didn't take much time for me to make a move. I was over a project, a prototyping project. I do some things like that where I'm helping inventors get their invention prototype, and I saw it come on the news. And then 2 days later, I saw where there was a death. And once I saw that someone died, I picked up my phone, started looking at flights to get out.
Yeah, as you should.
I wiped the rest of my schedule, and I got back to higher ground. And it was so interesting, Kelsey, because I thought that was the end of it. It's like, well,
wow,
gotten out of China, back to Houston.
I'm safe, right?
And lo and behold, it came through customs and was right on my heels. I was like, wow, was it in my suitcase?
Oh my God. I know, right? We might have to start blaming you. No, I'm just kidding. But it's crazy to think because, like I said, at one point in time, we thought, it was overseas, all right, but we're safe as America. Then it came to America, okay, we can contain it, we'll get rid of it. It's not that bad, right? It's not more than the common cold. And then lo and behold, we started learning more and more about it. And life got scary. We were forced into these quarantine situations like none before. And then, of course, I think it hit most of us, Cyril, when we saw sports stop. I mean, I think that's when it became real for so many people because, sports is kind of that global language. You talked about your overseas experience. So for you, I mean, when did it really hit you that it was real here in America? When did you know for like COVID-19 is something that is a pandemic that's going to affect us for a long time to
come? March, I think it was, I want to say March the 12th or the March the 13th. It was a weekend I was set to go to Dallas as part of a project. But between what I and the NBA G League.
Yeah.
To travel.
All right. Sorry, everyone. We are having a little bit. Can you hear us?
And I said, well, yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect. And I think we had lost you a little bit. So can you repeat your last answer?
I said that, when I was March the 12th, March the 13th, I was set to go to Dallas as part of a project I'm doing with China and the NBA's G League. And the G League canceled the games that weekend and all the rest of the season. And that's when it really started to hit like, wow, they're shutting down the NBA. They're shutting down the G League. Like, this thing is here. And that was like the first part of March.
Wow. And that's when it really became real, I think. And fast forward, March happened, we get into quarantine, April comes. All right, we think we're going to be good by summer. Lo and behold, summer comes and we're still here. But I think another pandemic hit us. And this, of course, was the killing of George Floyd, who was someone that you knew very well. Of course, I think every one of us remember seeing that video, seeing those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that the officer's knee was on his neck and we saw him take his last breath. And so for you, and I'm going to take you back to that May 25th incident, for you to know George, for you to see the video, I mean, take me back through just your first thoughts of everything when it all happened and you kind of became aware of what had happened to George and him no longer being here. All right, I'm going to take Cyril off real quick. I think we're having a few technical difficulties. And bring him back on. Hey, Cyril, can you hear us?
No.
Cyril, can you hear us?
I'm here. It just seems like...
Okay, there we go. You're back with us. We can hear you. We can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I was just saying about Big Floyd that was a tragic moment for me to watch. And I tried to deny it. I didn't want to believe that it was him. And, it's just been a wave of emotions still since that moment. The way, some people really just denounce what happened. And I stress some people because there are still some that have very negative things to say about the deceased. And, it's just been quite a thing. Because I know the thing, most with the negative things to say, they really didn't know George. They only know what they are being told to know. And it's just so interesting how people just accept what they hear as absolute fact without really taking time to listen to people who really knew the person in a much different light.
Right. And I appreciate you touching on that. So for those that didn't know George, you knew George very well coming from Houston. How would you describe him?
Well, we knew each other from playing basketball. We grew up playing basketball together and chasing college scholarships. And so, we played a lot of times in the summer when we were both on college scholarship. Just going around Houston, playing in the summer.
Yeah.
And then once I started To God Be the Glory, the travel team with To God Be the Glory, Floyd was one of the first players to come and join so he could travel with us and go play against the NCAA schools. He was my first. And he would bring other people around. He would go tell other people about me. Go tell other troopers to come join. So that's why it's when I hear people say these things, they have no idea of the contribution that he had to God Be the Glory. And it's still going on today.
I love that. And just hearing that, it makes me smile, thinking about those happy days and how he helped To God Be the Glory sports. And I love it. You guys were just young. Y'all were chasing basketball dreams, right? Like most young guys. And for those that don't know, George, scholarship athlete out of high school. He receives full scholarships to both South Florida Community College and Lee College. And just a passion to sports, advocated for young people going to college. And so now let's talk about To God Be the Glory sports. First off, I love the name. I don't think you could have chose a better name to do your sports agency after, but just talking about it, why was it so special for you to fund this program? And just talk about the growth of To God Be the Glory sports.
Well, thank you. I started To God Be the Glory as a basketball camp in 1997, and I was doing the camps around the at-risk kids, and I saw the market to start the college tour team, where I could get contracts with these schools, and they would pay us to come out and play, and I could bring a lot of guys in and put them in front of these coaches and see who was good enough to get a scholarship. So I just started seeing how I could create these situations using basketball. How could it be a good business, and how could it be something that could help the participants? And after I played in China, the Chinese people knew that I was doing this in America with the colleges. I was a player in China, but I was running this team in America. So the Chinese Sports Federation, the representative, hey, Cyril, can you bring a team next summer? What your guys like you do in America? Just bring a team over to China. We'll make a tour. And I was like, great. Yes,
I can do that.
We went 6-2, and we've been doing it every year since. This was from July of the year 2000. And I had to cancel 3 tours this year because of COVID.
Wow. And it's just hard to see, COVID has changed lives for so many of us, but I think especially it just hit the sports world hard. Because as you said, you had to cancel tours. Many of us won't be in seats for sports games this season, right? We're going to be watching on our TVs, on our computers, our phones, or whatever devices that we have. But I think just seeing what you've done and helping people, especially to travel globally. I know for me, I'm lucky to have been privileged to have seen the world in a global perspective. You learn so much when you travel globally. I think you learn much about yourself and just much about culture. I think it kind of goes to this greater understanding, Cyril, that we're trying to hopefully reach together as Americans for us to understand each other better. So just from your experience with To God Be the Glory sports, from playing in China, what would you say that you've learned about just acceptance that could be a lesson for many of the listeners?
Yes. When you go to a place like China, where it is not a cultural melting pot like the USA, quickly learn that you have to adjust to the situation. The situation is not going to adjust to you. In America, because we have all of these rights, and it's not that there are no rights in China. It's it's a different level of how, I guess I could say, entitlement is wielded
Yeah.
around. It just seems like people walk with a little bit more humility. Um, that's what I learned in China. They just seem a little bit more easygoing and not trying to press their way and as individualistic and imperialistic as America times.
Yeah.
It, it um it also taught me. I think I'm a bit. This is a weird takeaway, Kelsey. I'm a better driver because I've been in China.
Okay, positive.
I'm a yeah, Americans. I look at.
All right, so Cyril, you're gonna have to. I know you're saying so many great things, but we keep losing you for some reason. So last thing I heard, you're a better driver because because of your experience in China. And what else has changed for you? All right, sorry everyone, we're having technical difficulties, but this is a technical age. I'm gonna try to get him back if we're able to. Cyril, can you hear us at all? All right, I'm pretty sure he's trying to get back. He's saying so many great things. But joining me today is Cyril White. He is the founder of To God Be the Glory Sports. He was also a very close friend of the late George Floyd. Both were Houston natives. And Cyril is just sharing his experience. He's done a lot of great work with basketball overseas, especially in Asia and in China. And now we have him back. Can you hear us?
I felt like
there we go.
A little bad reception. I have the media room set up in there. I felt like the reception might be a little bad, so let me move to another
area. We can hear you so much clearer, but like it's technology. It's a live show. Things happen. So the last thing we heard from you, Cyril, it's okay. Look, it's live. People understand. The last thing we heard from you was you said you were a better driver, and then we lost all of the good stuff that you said after that.
I feel like I'm a lot better driver. Just giving me a greater sense of patience, a greater sense of working with others.
Yeah.
Like this is not my road. I'm not king of the road. So Chinese, they have a really communal type of approach to things. A lot of us and our, whereas I know we have a lot of me and mine. And I'm not trying to say one is right or wrong. I'm just saying I've been living in two different cultures. I've had a chance to look at this through two different lenses. So it's definitely made me approach things a lot differently, and just kind of take my time to, look at things from both sides before I make decisions. It's definitely made me a different leader for sure.
I love that. Like you said, look at things from both sides. I think we could benefit from that so much now. Look, we're preparing for an election in November. I think there's many things to consider, but it just seems like nowadays, Cyril, that it's you're this side or that side. But I think we see all of our differences, but I also think there is so many things that could bring us together. And I think we're at a time in this country where we need to be brought together. So I want to talk with you, Cyril, after the unfortunate killing of George Floyd. We have seen, I would say, some progress, some change in this country. We've seen the removal of Confederate flag from NASCAR. We've seen the removal of Confederate flag emblem from the Mississippi State flag. We've seen Confederate statues being taken down. We've seen these protest movements. We've seen, people wearing Black Lives Matter shirts. So for you, what has this meant to see this country, the country hopefully starting to change in a positive way as people fight for social justice? All right. Cyril, can you still hear us? Can you hear me okay, Cyril? I can still. Hey, Cyril, you're breaking up on us again. Why? All right. Can you hear us now?
We have the technical difficulties.
No problem. Look, it's live. It's 2020. Anything can happen.
Back?
We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you and see you. Can you hear me okay? Cyril, can you still hear me okay? All right. So thank you, everyone, for staying patient. It's 2020. Things happen. Technology happens. I believe everyone can still see and hear me. Cyril White, who is the founder of Be the Glory Sports, is joining us. Cyril, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So now you can answer the question. Now we can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear us okay?
All right.
Cyril, can you hear us okay?
I said that George Floyd has been such a catalyst in this whole movement.
Yeah.
In a lot of other events, there have been a lot of things that has been the catalyst that has really on how drastic the other incidents were. He shined a lot of light, and people are sick of it. And there have been a lot of symbolic changes. Statues down, Confederate flag down, names of buildings being changed. Things are happening. But I agree with what I heard Al Sharpton say. Al Sharpton said there has to be in law legislation, what's in writing regarding certain things. This will be just measurable.
All right, Cyril, can you still hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right. For some reason, we're having difficulties, Cyril, with your reception, but it's okay. I heard most of what you said. I know you gave a powerful Al Sharpton quote, which is always good, especially I think in times like now. But I just want to make sure you're still with us because you're saying such phenomenal things, and I think everyone wants to listen to it. But I appreciate you touching on that. And of course, we just want change. I think it's been inspiring to see people like Steven Jackson, who of course played in the NBA for 14 years and was also close with George Floyd. And he's been speaking out and speaking up and supporting the family. And for you, I'm sure it's hopefully inspirational to see just how many have galvanized and made sure that he didn't die in vain, I'd say. To make sure that the message is clear, that people want change, people want justice, people just want to live their American life without fear of being killed. They want to be respected. They want the same opportunities, I'd say, for jobs. And so I can only imagine what's going through your head, but I would hope for you as a friend of George Floyd, as someone who knew him well, that hopefully he's looking down at us, at least smiling a little bit, seeing hopefully the change that is hopefully starting to occur. And hopefully we don't let the momentum up, I'd say, Cyril. Can you still hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
I just wanted to pick that and just kind of just say you mentioned George smiling down. You mentioned can
you still hear us, Cyril?
Just,
All right. I think we just lost him, but nonetheless, we will have to probably somehow, some way, have to have him back. I know he's having some reception issues. It happens. It's technology, but I appreciate everyone very much for joining the show. It was actually perfect timing because I want to get you all to football. I want to get you all for basketball. We will be back actually tomorrow at 6 p.m. with two-time WNBA champion and activist Renee Montgomery. Super excited to welcome her to the show. And then we'll be back Saturday at noon with Doug Williams, the Senior Vice President of Player Development for our Washington football team. We'll be talking the latest and greatest in the NFL, HBCUs, and so much more. And then at 1 p.m. on Saturday, I will be joined by Daniel Nelson, an former MLB player. So we'll be talking the latest and greatest in baseball. Make sure you join us here live for a live show. Of course, things happen, but I appreciate y'all staying with me. As always, hashtag listen in with KNN or hashtag LIWKNN for anything you liked on the show. We absolutely love to see that. And of course, as always, check out audio versions of the show on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. And of course, you can catch live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Appreciate you all for watching. And until next time, have a great week. Stay safe. And remember to wear your face mask. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.